Good evening. I call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Please be advised in the event of a fire emergency, an alarm will sound. Please note all emergency exits and evacuate well away from the building. At this time, we request everyone please turn off your cell phones to silence. Thank you for your cooperation. First on our agenda this evening is additions, deletions, and changes. Mr. Malasani.
Yes, under 8.7, we have acceptance of a board resignation. 8.8, adoption of a textbook. Under personnel, we have additional appointments of per diem substitute teachers. Under personnel 9, appointment of a permanent part-time clerk. And just language change with regarding executive session. And Liz will read that when we get to executive session.
Thank you. Consent agenda, please. Can I have a motion for consent agenda 1 through 10?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. On to communications.
Yeah, just a couple quick things on my behalf. So first is, you're probably well aware that the state is studying a new foundation aid formula. The Rockefeller Institute is conducting that study. This Thursday, Dr. Chanel and myself will be attending the Peace for Administration at BOCES. Hopefully we'll provide our input in terms of how that foundation aid formula, it does impact small rural districts. Also in your board packet, you see an advocacy letter that was signed by all school superintendents in the Genesee Valley BOCES as well. Also, good news is that Jeremy and his team has earned another grant for school lunch equipment, a $20,000 grant. This is the second year in a row, so congratulations, Mr. Nardone and our food service program. That's it for me.
Let's start with points of pride. Mr. Valenek.
The elementary school is beginning to implement the Raider 5 expectations. Be kind, be safe, be accepting, be respectful, and treat others the way you want to be treated. As we predicted, our students are rising to these expectations. These values guide everything we do. From the classroom to the playground, we believe that these core principles shape the character of our students and prepare them to make a positive impact in the community.
Our campus was flooded with excitement, eagerness, and Raider pride as we hosted both elementary, middle, high school open houses. I was in attendance and it was pretty fantastic. Good work to the administrative team.
It was. It's very good. Save the dates. This year, our elementary students are bringing the magic of Finding Nemo Jr. to life on stage. Don't miss this unforgettable musical on November 22nd and 23rd, featuring performers from grades 3, 4, and 5.
We are excited to announce that we have been awarded the NYSPHSAA School of Excellence Award, exceeding the bar as 17 of our 19 of our varsity teams were scholar athlete teams during the 23-24 school year.
We welcome the class of 2031 to our annual 6th grade orientation. Guided by their amazing senior mentors, our 6th graders received a VIP experience, learned all about our building, their schools, or their schedules, and what the middle school experience is all about. Great program.
Awesome. And then if anybody would like to share any any committee meetings that you've attended, just give a quick debriefing.
Yep, so we had a elementary compact meeting. There were 16 parents there, 2 board members, and Pete Green and Michelle were there leading it. Lots of enthusiasm around it, ready to take on some tasks and do the work.
Yeah.
First meeting?
Yep, really nice.
Impressed.
We had textbook committee yesterday. Peggy and I were there, Dr. Chanel and Mr. Hoy, about new biology textbook. It's basically he's requesting it because students feel like they'll learn better with a book, and the previous version was almost 20 years old, and the lifespan is about 10 years. They're hoping to get 10 years out of it.
Yeah, and they the textbook comes with all manner of additional resources that teachers can use. And I, using my contacts, talked to the biology professor at Roberts that I know, and she was familiar with the textbook and thought it was great, thought the comments of the teacher that we were given were very good. So anyhow, so I thought that was good, so I shared that.
It's great to hear.
Liz, may I have a quick question? Where is she, Michelle? The compact meeting, first of all, 16 students or 16 parents
Big time.
is awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious, were any of the parents of new students that just moved in? They're really?
Yes, no, that's awesome. So they were really excited. I think what drew them, I would like to say, is the work of the compact committee, but they're very excited to be on the PTO as well.
Wow, that's
So
awesome.
we do both meetings together. We'll start
Okay.
with compact and then we roll into PTO. And they're just thrilled to help pull off some of these amazing events that we're doing every
I
year.
wondered about that after I had heard how high the attendance was. So very good, thank you.
And again, later in the agenda, the board will take action upon the recommendation of the textbook committee to approve that textbook here just shortly.
Is that it for correspondence?
Yes.
All right, next we have guests of the board, and we have introduction of our new employees, which is a fantastic time of year. I believe Dr. Chanel and Mrs. Myers are gonna lead that? Or no? I mean, I can go first, and then actually Megan Rogers is gonna help me introduce some of our elementary staff as well. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll start we'll go straight down the row, is that okay? In no particular order, just how they're sitting, really. So we have Evelyn Wilson. Stand up, Evelyn, there she is. She may be a familiar face to you because she is actually a CalMom alum. And you know that saying, everything happens for a reason? That's Evelyn for us. So, although a last-minute hire, very qualified and excited to welcome her back right here on campus. So she's teaching third grade for us.
And then we have Jessica Bono. Jessica is our elementary school counselor. She has had a year of experience as a long-term sub in the Buffalo area, but she's excited to come closer to home. Geneseo is where Jessica's from, so we're excited to have her. She's hit the ground running as a school counselor down in the elementary building. Natalie Lockwood is next. She has been hired to be our fourth grade teacher. Natalie comes to us from Warsaw with 17 years of experience in the elementary and is excited to tackle on fourth grade for us. So welcome, Natalie. And then we have Janie Keenan. Also comes to us with a lot of experience. She is the new special ed teacher in our 811 classroom. Janie comes to us from Rush Henrietta, having most of her experience in a self-contained setting. Also coming home, has a new kindergartner joining us at CalMom, so she's happy to be here. And then Jan here, familiar face, helping us out in our as a one-to-one aide in our 811 setting.
Shane's been with us a while. She's been the most dependable sub.
Yeah, which is, we've lost her in the summer.
Yeah.
Really difficult for us. Yeah, a blessing and a curse for sure in the sub world, but thank you for being here. And then I have two staff members that couldn't make it here tonight, but they will try to come in October once we can do the proper introduction. I got one more coming too. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Same thing for middle school. We don't have anybody, right?
No,
So-
not this evening. So we have one new hire that's in the middle of Project Lead the Way training evenings for about 3 hours each night on an online platform while teaching class at the same time. So she's in course this evening. And then new hire that I did share with Megan is actually coaching for us already, JV soccer. So hit the ground running in every way you can imagine. And then just one this evening with a personal conflict. So they've been invited to the next board meeting.
Perfect.
Huge welcome to you guys. Thank you
Yes.
for everything you do.
Welcome.
Appreciate you, and we know your time is precious. If you need to scoot out, we certainly understand. We'll not be offended. If you want to stick around and watch the rest of the board meeting, you're also welcome to do that.
This is your
Don't
dance,
stare
guys.
I don't want to say you have to go, but I think we all played a lot of roles.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
We have a cookie on the way out.
Next is public forum. We do not have anyone signed up for the public forum, so we're going to move along to superintendent's report.
Yes, so superintendent's report, we're going to open up with report of the opening of the school year. It was a great opening in terms of I'll let Mr. Otto get into right from busing in terms of building be prepared all the way through. Our motto this year is all in, all the time. As I shared with the board in the backup minutes, we will have shirts for you as well because we're all in it all the time, but not at all cost. So that's been our focus. We did an opening presentation. And then could you please, I want to share it down on the right, or left, right here, if you could click this. This is the video that we opened up the school year with, so as staff came into the auditorium. Mr. Ricardo put this together for us. Go ahead.
Welcome to the home of champions. We are a small community nestled in the shadows of Rochester and the Finger Lakes region. Defined by hard work, rich tradition, and a passion for excellence, Caledonia Mumford Central School is truly a special place. Here you will find a unique, close-knit school community that has been producing world-changing graduates for over 125 years. We pride ourselves on having top-notch facilities for our students, staff, and community to thrive in every day. From academics to athletics to the arts and everything in between, excellence is our standard. Raiders love to win both inside and outside the classroom, and this legacy and competitive fire is always burning. Our district boasts talented teachers and staff who care for our students in so many special ways. Our teachers invite curious learners to become the best versions of themselves through engaging learning opportunities and trusting relationships. Our staff always goes the extra mile to make sure our students' experience is unique, safe, and special every day. But it is the infectious energy and fun they bring on a daily basis that sets our team apart. Tradition and success never graduates here on our campus. The Raider spirit is something that develops early on and grows with abundance year after year. You will find Raiders working hard, learning to learn, caring for each other, having fun, performing, pushing themselves out of their comfort zone, and, of course, winning. It is a district-wide connectedness that creates our unique family atmosphere where Raiders look up to Raiders. Each day we learn, lead, and inspire in every aspect of our award-winning school. We are the home champions and proud of it.
So that's how we began our day, and then we went into what it means to be all in. We defined that as an administrative team, and we also asked for input from the staff. We did this through artificial intelligence, the presentation from Mr. Harris from the BOCES that came in to assist us as well. So it was a really great morning, great way to kick off the school year. And with that, I'm going to lead right into busing because we can't get the kids here. It's a bad start. And Ron and his team did a super job. Go ahead, Ron.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just want to go on record saying that the new motto is something I've done since 2010. Okay, so it's nothing new to me. So my next question is, what do you want to hear first? The good news or the bad news?
Start with good.
Huh?
Start with good.
Good?
Nope.
Well, the good news, there is no bad news.
Oh.
Okay. except for I got bad news when I woke up Wednesday morning that I wasn't going to have a starting driver because they were involved in a motor vehicle accident at 11 o'clock the night before and was in the hospital going through observation. So guess who's the next man up? And that's only because I design all the runs. I don't know all the stops. So that preempted me to be in the office at 4:30, Google mapping every stop and making my notes on my route sheet. So it kind of put me out of sorts because I'm usually the one in the middle high school loop controlling traffic and monitoring bus times as they hit campus, which is our target time, 7:20. So with me driving, it was behind the wheel. I'm the 9th bus in and it's 7:26, so I only need one more. And they showed up at 7:28. Mr. Malasani took my place. He was already monitoring. So when was the first bus in? I got to ask you to make sure you were
I
doing
think it
the
was like
job.
7:16.
Huh?
7:16, 17,
Okay.
7:16,
A little early, but not bad. Okay.
So the first day too is, which is important, is that we don't pick up kindergartners that day. Typically the second day is when parents are out there taking pictures, the first day on the school bus and so forth. And it was even better. Go ahead, Ron.
So with that being said, it's the second year in a row we've hit all 10 buses 3 days in a row. It doesn't matter what I put at my team, they deliver. Anybody have any questions? I mean, we fielded the same amount of complaints. I got emails from 11 o'clock on Tuesday night for a transportation change. That's how much we're chasing people to get us the information.
You do a fantastic job. We appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
You get our kids started on the right note, get our kids in here. Every year you've come and presented to us that I've been on the board. It's been a pleasure to hear you
Thank
about
you.
your successes. And thank you. I know a lot of time goes into that.
Extremely amount.
So thank you.
Where did you
Thank you.
lose the 6 minutes, do you think?
What's that?
Where did you lose the 6 minutes, do you think, on opening day when you were driving? You said you were late, weren't you late?
No,
No,
early.
I'm never late.
I thought 7:20 was mentioned, I thought he said
No, they didn't
7:26.
come out.
I'm sorry. My apologies, sir.
Ron, will you serve some of the board with all your team? Thank them for the wonderful
Yes.
job they do.
Thank you.
Safe
Thank you
and
very much.
efficient transportation. Please do so.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next up, Mr. Nardone.
I also wanted to say, as Ron's walking out too, Ron coordinated all our extra field trip runs and sporting runs with Leroy, now that we merged teams. So thank you to all the work. I saw the spreadsheet, everything you put into it, a lot of time and effort, and I appreciate that too. So thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
All right, so outside of transportation, buildings and grounds. So busy summer for buildings and grounds like it always is. So just to paint the picture, everything in every classroom has to be cleaned, moved out of the room. The floor needs to be scrubbed or stripped, depending on what year it is, waxed, and then everything needs to move back. So to do that, we had 4 crews this summer, similar to last summer. We hired 16 summer help to do it. 4 crews, you had a cleaning crew at both the middle high school and at the elementary school. You had a grounds crew and you had a painting crew. So the cleaning crew was in charge of cleaning everything from walls to floors to stairwells to classrooms and moving everything out into the hall. The grounds crew went through, trimmed all our bushes and all the landscaping that you see around the campus. They weeded everything and then they also mulched everything, top dressed everything with a little bit of mulch. Looks fantastic. In addition, the grounds crew was tasked with moving everything back into the classroom once it was done. And if Mr. Ganino was here, he would tell you that that's a very difficult process sometimes because the floor looks so good when it's nice and waxed. It usually lasts about 3 days, right? So when it's nice and waxed, if there's one imperfection, we want to redo it because we want that teacher to come back to a great floor. We only had to redo 2 classrooms, maybe 3 classrooms all summer. And it was, you know, maybe a wheel got caught and the wax got a little destroyed and there was a little cut in it. So we had to redo those rooms. We also had a painting crew. Painting crew painted over 15 classrooms and 4 stairwells. So we did 1 over at the elementary school, and our goal, our plan is 1 at each building. However, I think you all remember the middle school stairwells in the old middle school are yellow. They are all maroon now, so we were able to paint all 3 remaining yellow stairwells to our maroon color. So hats off to the crew there. In addition, we had our full-time mechanics and our custodians. They went through, changed all the lights, all the ballasts that had to be changed, cleaned all the filters and the unit ventilators. and it looked terrific. On top of all that, Mr. Ganino had to oversee the capital outlay. So the 24-25 capital outlay is completed. There was a little bit of asbestos abatement that we did when no kids were in school, and that was over the summertime in the basement of the middle high school kitchen area. So all the elbows got replaced, so now if there's any damage, we don't have to worry about any of the food going to waste. In addition, we also did sidewalks. So you can see the sidewalk out here that our pre-Kers use every day. I know they like it a little wider, and so do we in buildings and grounds, because we don't have to tear up the grass. And then also outside, I want to say it's door 15 or 14 right here, we did the sidewalk that also connects to the bus loop. So that is complete. And also, we completed our 2024-25 $35,000 camera project that we do every year. We get a dollar for dollar back on that once we report it on Schedule M of the ST3 that I take care of. So we're just rolling that money forward and equipping the building with more cameras. In addition, we held the facilities conference that I know Mr. Malsani talked about in either the July or August meeting. That was a lot of fun. I want to thank Mr. McArdle for creating some nice pictures and memories for our staff. We had a garbage can race where they had to go in between the cones. And we said we were going to cheat at the beginning of that for the CalMum team. And it's kind of funny. We were up first against, I want to say, the team from Penfield, and the wheels came off of the garbage can. So they were all looking at me, and I'm like, I was joking. We did not do that purposely. But it was a lot of fun. I know the admin came down to take a look at it. It was a lot of fun. And then hopefully, you all noticed when you came in here, the ticket booth and concession stand have been painted. So gone is that dreadful yellow color that was in probably in the 60s, 70s. It's actually right out there in our hall. And it's now a dark gray color with a maroon trim, some white background. The only thing they got to do left is the flashing on the concession stand. They're going to paint that maroon, hopefully before our home game on Friday, I want to say. So she's trying to work in a little favor there. So that's all the stuff that happened with the facilities. Food service, we had to say goodbye to Rob Flynn. He accepted a job over at Churchville Chali, so we went through at the end of June and did a hiring process. We hired Jill Gem as our new cafeteria director, shared again with us in Mount Morris. She's done a great job. She coordinated and worked with Lindsay, our new cook manager. She was over at the elementary school as a food service helper. She is now our cook manager in the middle high school now that Rob Hale is gone. So we didn't lose just one, we lost 2 Robs this year. So great work that she's done. I know our breakfast cart is continuing, so that is offering, we're selling like 60 more breakfasts than we normally do when we did not have the breakfast cart, so that's awesome. And then Jill's getting her feet wet, developing the menu, looking at past menus, and we're hoping to continue our new menu item every other month tradition starting in either the month of October or November. So food service is hitting the ground running, couldn't be more proud there. Finally, in the business office, I'm sure most of you heard with the tax issue. So I just wanted to say this in the board meeting just so people fully understand. So when we do the taxes, so I do them by myself. I also have somebody kind of look it over. I work together with Sue. She'll kind of check my numbers before we send them off. I fill out spreadsheets, and those spreadsheets go to the county. So luckily here at CalMum, we have 3 different counties: Genesee, Livingston, and Monroe County. Once I send them the information, pretty much what they want is tax rate, tax levy, state aid amount, stuff like that. They put all that together, and I'm not going to bore you with the file name, but they create a file. And then that file gets sent to ABS, Applied Business Systems, and they do the printing based on the file. So it's a text file, they print it, and it forms your tax bill. The files that we sent the county and the counties sent ABS were 100% accurate. When ABS went to print Genesee and Monroe County, no issues occurred. However, when they went to print Livingston County, there was a glitch in one of their servers. So what it did is the first bill printed blank. Me and Sue saw that and we're like, what is that? But then the next bill looked okay. And by that time, it was already mailed out to the community. So it was like 2 hours later that we got a phone call from the mayor and we looked into it even further. So the first bill printed blank, the second bill printed with the total from the first bill. And they're on their 4th. So every bill was inaccurate. The funny thing was when you looked at the total, it would say the total's $500, but if you pay with a 2% penalty, it's $3,000. So that's why everything else on the tax bill was right except for that total number. So what we did was we worked diligently with ABS, our bankers, and the town assessor, the bank here locally, to explain the issue. So they were all aware so they can explain it to the public. Big shout out to Mrs. Voos for helping during that time. We probably fielded 50, 60 phone calls in 2 days, and people are everybody was very nice, but to start with, they're very concerned. What's going on? I want to know. And Mrs. Voos definitely helped with that, keep everybody calm and explain it very thoroughly to people, which was awesome. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. But that was the error that happened. And the new tax bills, they told us were going to be sent out in a week and a half. I talked it over with Mr. Molisani, we're like, no, that's not okay. So they actually got the new tax bills out by that Friday, or some people received it on Saturday. So it was like 2 days later than the other bills got out. And in that bill was a letter from us at the school saying what happened, please don't pay your first bill, pay your second bill. We've had probably 10 people so far pay the old bill. And I don't want anybody to be nervous because when they try to pay the old bill, remember, all the files were correct. So when the old bill gets sent to the bank to process, the bank's gonna return it as an exception because it doesn't match what they have in their system because everybody else has the correct information. So all those checks are being returned to me in the business office. I'm creating a letter and mailing it back to the individuals, letting them know, please pay your bill by September 30th, and here's the new bill as well. So we're sending it out twice. So does anybody have any questions on either facilities, food service, or the business office?
One comment. I appreciate the pride you're taking in the district and the job that the crew is doing. Also, with the opening night of the open house, it was nice that you made staff available to help the kids with the lockers.
Yeah.
That was a huge stress relief to have the assistance of the crew there. So
I'll give that credit to the high school administration.
Yeah.
We had 2 people on staff, and then they're like, we probably need a couple more for the
Yeah.
lockers. So we threw them on, and a big shout out to the buildings and grounds crew, always willing to go that extra mile, pick up a couple extra hours, and it's well worth it.
That's very good.
Just to clarify, Mr. Nardone,
Yes.
when we resent the bills,
Yep.
it was on the cost of ABS.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes, I did not say that. So I called ABS and confirmed that they're not gonna send us another bill. Even if they did send us another bill, we wouldn't pay it, but they informed us that they are not going to send us a
Yes,
second
okay, that
bill.
was
So
a
they
question
covered
from
the
a board member.
postage
Good question.
and the printing charges, yep,
Thank you very much.
no problem, thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Meyer?
Okay.
Opening, I'll have to tell you, the building is very lonely without all the kids there. So I am really thrilled that the building is buzzing. No issues, of course. B&G completely outdid themselves. Every room was ready well in advance of the kids coming. So our teachers, especially at the elementary, they love to come in and make sure that everything is perfect. They were ready to be able to come in and set up their classrooms and really, go off strong. It really helped this year for our teachers especially to feel less, believe it or not, the open house made the teachers feel less anxious about the first day. They didn't feel like they had to do all this cutesy crafts and things like that to get to know the kids right away and have it up in the hallway as we would just as we were welcoming company into our home is how we look at it. They wanted to make sure the classrooms looked pristine and ready, but they were excited to meet their students, and then the nerves kind of just, we can start the first day of school with everything that we need. Kids, the supplies, a roof over our head, and they were ready to go. So that was feedback from the teachers. They really felt put at ease there. At the elementary, we also rolled out a new master schedule that maximizes all of our instructional time. One highlight, and I was going to mention it more when we talk about our state testing, but one highlight that pushed us to rework our master schedule was uninterrupted instructional blocks of time. So every single classroom, K-5, has ELA and math and science and social studies that is not interrupted by lunch or wind time or special. So that took, we started that work mid-year last year to get that up and running, and so we were able to deploy it. Happy to announce that everything went off without a hitch. The transitions went well, because I was, of course, nervous about that. Mr. Green and I standing in the hallways watching everybody transition with their new schedule, and so far everything has gone really, really well. Arrival and dismissal, as Mr. Otto said, he does a fantastic job with his buses, so we have been on time for everything. Arrival and dismissal, I'm actually shocked, which is a good thing. So that means our planning and preparation was well thought out. One thing Mr. Green and I really wanted to fix from last year was this idle time of the kids on the bus, whether they are waiting at the middle high school to come over to our building and then just waiting there in the morning until the bell rings, or the reverse, coming from our building to the middle high and waiting there in the afternoon. So we have completely shrunk that time down. We have accommodated the students in the morning to get off the bus when they arrive, to come into the cafeteria with supervision. In turn, we have asked parents to abide by our 7:30 drop-off because students were arriving as early as 7:10, and we simply don't have supervision at that time. Teacher contract and all of our supervision starts at 7:30. So we sent out a parent square, and I have to tell you, our parents are amazing because within one message, everybody just followed suit. So I'm happy to report that the arrival and dismissal times have gone really, really well. Let's see, I'm wearing these bracelets as my reminder. We rolled out the Raider 5, as Mike had mentioned. Raider 5 is our expectations that we started to work on last year. This year we actually get to implement them. Students will, this is top secret, they don't know this yet because the bracelets just came in, but they'll be able to collect all 5. And so the bracelets all have each of the 5 expectations on there. So we are working with teachers on how we're going to deploy those and how we're going to, celebrate the good. And we are trying to do that mindset of all in all the time, and these 5 all the time, not be kind in September and not in December. So it's all 5 all the time. We put it on the morning announcements, and that the kids are just so thrilled to hear their names, not just for their birthdays, but to be recognized for some good behavior. So it's just changing that mindset around the building has helped, and reported from special areas too, all of PE, music, library, STEM. My gosh, we rolled out a new STEM program, so we'll be reporting on that as the year goes on. I want you to see where it started and where we have come, but we're going to let Mrs. Merlot get some weeks under her belt. So we rolled out a new program. We're rolling out the Raider 5, the new schedule, the arrival and dismissal, open house. What am I missing, Mr. Molisani? Anything?
Well, the only thing you mentioned today when we chatted is that you're going to be asking for some feedback.
Yeah, so one of the pieces that our compact is going to be doing is determining how many times a year do parents want feedback opportunities. Not too much where they're like, oh, here's another survey, and then don't put in, but what's going to be that sweet spot to ask for some feedback throughout the year so that we can monitor and adjust. And I will tell you, the open house came from our compact and came from our PTO committee. That idea of combining the meet and greet with the middle of September open house to kick off the year really came from the parents. So yes.
Can I say, having gone to many open houses over the years, that was the best open house I think I've ever seen. I mean, yeah, the worst was when they were all in one gym or something like that. That was horrendous. Anyhow, so I commend you. It was fun.
It's a lot of fun to see the whole campus buzzing. Thank you for that. Do I have the golden hour behind me? That's wonderful. Thank you. But it is something exciting that as an admin team, we wanted to kick off the school year with a complete welcome back bash. And it felt like that across, because I even, as soon as I finished mine, I went over to the middle high school to, get a glimpse of what was going on for my own kids, put the mom hat on, and you could still feel that energy in both buildings. So
it was very, very well done.
Thank you.
Very well done. And for those of us that have been around, one of the challenges with the middle school, high school open house was attendance, right? We always saw really good attendance from our communities in the elementary school open house. And then this is really, like when you come into the campus that evening, it's very community feeling. And then when you come into the middle school, high school, there's a lot of people that come out for that. And I don't know that every school has that.
We actually tracked how many people came. Remember, I had only first grade to fifth because pre-K and kindergarten, and I should never exclude them because they worked so hard. So pre-K and kindergarten did their orientation and open house the first day of school. They also do playground nights throughout the summer. They did them towards the end of August. So that was another meet and greet opportunity that they had. But for grades 1 through 5, we had over 90% show up. Wow. So I asked every grade member, grade chair who didn't show, and the numbers were minimal, and a lot of them knew why. So they had this activity, and I know Becky will report on her percentage was.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments?
Just along those lines too, we did have several board members join us on the opening day
Oh, yes,
to welcome
thank you.
students back.
It's fun.
Dr. McNear, Mrs. Roll, and Mrs. Dietrich joined us and welcomed our kids back, which was nice.
It was fun. I was glad to do it.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
I'll start with open house just because definitely the strategic plan, when we went through strategic planning, sort of drove this new format of moving open house from the middle of the start of the school year into the summer. We used to allow kids to come in a couple days in the summer to move into their lockers, and everyone would come, and they would drip in. Mrs. Boos and I would be in charge. It would just be the two of us, and kids would drip in day after day, hour after hour to move to their lockers. And so strategic planning, I said, well, just let's move in with lockers during an open house like this. It literally drives it's the reason why kids come. They want to be here, they want to get moved into their locker. Teachers will tell you they don't necessarily get a lot of visits upstairs, especially kids that have been in school for quite some time, because as you know, our teachers work very hard. They don't teach just one grade level or one subject. So after being here for a little bit, the kids do tend to know their educators. So we've added that component in the gymnasium where we really celebrate all the clubs and activities that we have, kind of stealing that college feeling of when you first show up for a college visit, how they're trying to recruit you to join everything, right? So just stealing some of the things that we know work in some other places and building in. 90% participation rate for us across the 612, which was fantastic. Feedback on that, I would say we've tried every year to get a little bit better at what we do. This year there was a different table for every grade level in alpha order, because those tables really do slow you down coming in. We still had just that initial crew of a line to try to move people through and get them their envelopes. Inside the envelope is the schedule and the locker combination, all the things kids need, and that does also allow us to keep track of who made it. We then take the envelopes of kids that did not make it to open house down to our counseling center, knowing that for those kiddos, that first day of school is going to be just a little bit tumultuous. So they know to go to the counseling center and get your envelope down there. The counselors are there to support them for anyone that's new to the district. So open house for us with its format does move into the next day and providing support for kids that were not here. I have to give a shout out because it is absolutely impossible to run a school building with this many moving parts without our entire team. This is mine and Tim's, Mr. McCardle's third year in opening a building. There's a lot of what happens now in the opening of the building that is just such a system that it just rolls with all the people in the back end helping us do every last little thing. So a shout out to Sherry Murdoch and Molly Blyer. Without them, this is not possible. Shannon Larson supports our counseling team, which takes care of all the back end of everything that you can imagine in school tool that makes our systems function. So I will say the very first day of school, every principal everywhere that's running a master schedule, right, is holding their breath that the master schedule is gonna run, that the bells are gonna ring, that you're not gonna have kids standing in hallways, and it is a sign of success. So here in this building, we do it for 2 days in a row. We make sure our A day runs and then our B day. And I will honestly say that I get an early morning message from Mrs. Larson letting me know that she's logged into School Tool already before she's walked on this campus, and she says, we're good, it says A day. So there's a lot of little things and a lot of people that help us pay attention to all those little things. So we are running quite the system over here, so shout out to all those folks. In terms of the start of school, again, I would just say open house is our kickoff. It is where we learn when things are not functioning very well. Chromebooks go in lockers, so if kids go to their locker and they don't locate a Chromebook, we have technology staff present that evening to make sure that we make that happen for kids and families so we don't have any glitches there. I would say that is where we had a little bit of glitch this year. We had quite the influx of new students. So just making sure that all of our new students felt the Calmon way and that they were able to walk in here prepared was something we had to be extra diligent with this year. So you'll see some system build on our end for next year, making sure that we as principals are doing some spot checking and how that looks and how that goes, just to make sure that our kids feel the way we want them to feel when they step inside the doors. School year's off to a great start. Teachers are doing a wonderful job. We've been tracking attendance already just to make sure that every child has shown up. We haven't had any kiddos that haven't made it, at least, we've had some kids be absent already, but we didn't have anybody stringing already for a few days, which we do tend to watch at the beginning of the school year, just for school anxiety, to make sure we're providing a lot of support. So the school year is off to a great start.
Very good.
Shout out to Buildings and Grounds. You guys, they also, I'm sure if you follow us on Facebook, you know that they did the courtyard just outside of the library and the art room. And it was down to like maybe the last week before the crew was going to be going, and it still hadn't been touched. And I was holding my breath. We're like, am I going to have to look at that again for another year? And then they swooped in there and completed it just before they were finished. And it's a big celebration. I see the guys have already been in there weeding and taking care of some of that. And it makes a big difference for kids when things look a certain way, right? You just want to keep it that way. So it's been a great start to the year. Thank you.
And along those lines too is that the Buildings and Grounds team had 4 less days this year than they did last year to accomplish all that work. So very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Malasani, you're going to do the staff and enrollment report.
Right, this is just to give you a heads up where we are on the very first day of school. You'll actually get another report after Beds Day. So Beds Day is when the state takes all the information from our school. They drive state aid, attendance rates, and things of that nature. That's officially the first Wednesday in October. But I just want to share with you how we deployed our staff. So we have basically nearly 100 certified staff. It's 99.5. So and where they're deployed, in what positions, what buildings they're at, you can see that there. Next up is the report regarding the enrollment history. We project 806 students. You know, that's for enrollment as the first day. It becomes official again next first Wednesday in October. So right now, as Dr. Schnell mentioned, we have everybody that we expect to have in our schools. Along those lines too, it gets into the student-teacher ratio as well as the adult ratio. So basically 1 every 10 is 9.5 from a student to a teacher ratio, but for adult-wise, when you take into account all of our adults, including our bus drivers, support staff members, it's to 1 in 7, 1.694. Along those lines too, we have 17.5 support staff members that assist us and make sure that we're off to a good start and assist us throughout the year. We have a total of 150 employees. Again, you can see them broken down by departments there on that last sheet. And the very last report, you'll see again enrollment data, the sizes of classes. We're basically from 18 to 23. The size of the classes in the elementary school. In the middle school, there's 16 to 23. And then in the high school, it really depends on what course group you're in. They could be as small as 7 or 8 up to 20 plus. And then on your last sheet, you'll see the number of special education students that we have, the programs that we have here at the school, and where they lie. So it will be a similar report you'll get in October, but it will actually be the official report.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is our New York State assessment results. So we received these results over maybe now 2 weeks ago, and the embargo was lifted. So at this time, we'll start off with the elementary. Or elementary, middle, high, you guys can come together.
We're gonna tag that together.
Yep.
Let's see. Maybe I'll have this up so I can see it.
Oh my God. That's 83.
We can have it right here. Okay. I can see that. You can see that? All right, so as Mr. Molisani said, we just received this data. So this is very surface level numbers. Very surface level numbers. The work ahead in general, and I know I speak for Becky as well, is getting our teachers together and diving into the data. So we will be doing that in the upcoming weeks to celebrate our bright spots and to see where we need to grow. So again, there's a lot of numbers there, but there's even more underneath. So we'll start with some ELA results. ELA results, good? No, we're not good yet.
Yep.
Oh, slideshow.
Good.
There we go. Okay, perfect. You can see that. I
can see that.
Okay, perfect. All right. So we do have some bright spots in ELA. Grade 3 hit number 1 in the region. And when I showed the 3rd grade team this just quickly, I'm telling you, this is all they've seen. I had one of the teachers say, well, that hopefully makes sense because we spent so much time trying to teach the kids early on, and this goes a shout out to our 2nd grade teachers too, to start flipping their mindset to computer-based testing. So a reminder that the elementary, this was our very first year of computer-based testing across the board. So we went all in last year. That's it. So that is also another factor that lives in our data for us. And so that is part of the explanation of some of the dips and trends that you're going to see that kind of have done a little bit of a blip. And you see 4th grade is 10th in the region and 5th is 5th. Okay, so well done for ELA. Again, we're going to be looking at our data and really looking at the constructed responses to see how our students are using the tools to type in their responses. Let's see, next up, well, how about this? I will also say, while we're on this slide, some other asterisks to think about in the elementary is that I had this year 22 more opt-outs this year. That means families that elected to not have their child sit for the exam. It was definitely shocking for me throughout because in the past, anytime we've had these trends, there's usually something going on, a letter being passed, something on Facebook, something that is encouraging families to opt their student out. This is really important data for us, so I remember talking actually with our compact committee as this was happening and saying, alert, alert, talk to your parents because I'm getting letters in of families opting students out and in a very a la carte style. So my child is going to take the ELA but not the math. Or my child is going to opt out of all of them. Or my child is just going to opt out of ELA. So that is a battle that I noticed as it was coming in. So that to me is a big number, 22 more opt-outs than we've had previously to date.
How many total? Was it 22 total opt-outs or 22 additional?
It was 22 additional, 22 total, no, I'm going to have to count it for you. Let me do that and I'll get back to you.
Thank
But
you.
I have the list and many that didn't opt out the year prior that did this year. So I don't know what it is,
Did they
but I
say
keep
what?
advocating to say, please take no reasoning.
Just not doing it?
No, just a canned couple sentences that says, and sometimes it comes in that day. So when we are looking at our state results and we are diving into the data, we do take it very seriously. We do make curricular adjustments based on that. But we're also making sure that we have the correct picture of the students that are represented. So we will be doing that work coming up. Becky, you have the next slide. I believe it goes to grade 6, 7, and 8.
Okay, so same thing here. You're watching our assessment results as we are compared to the Genesee Valley BOCES region, and then how we ranked when we're looking at ourselves across the region. I'm going to say this just because Mrs. Schaaf would really want you to know this. Maybe the first time that she's hit #1 in grade 7. She's very proud. When asked, like, what did you do differently this past year than the years prior, Mrs. Schaaf would actually tell you that she's been working on Dear Time. She's been trying to encourage the kids to read and to fall in love with reading. Something that you guys have heard me talk about a few times when I'm looking at data of how do we get our kids back, reading and literacy being a real strength for them, and that's something that she spent a lot of time doing last year. I would refer to her in a lot of cases as the book whisperer. She reads a lot herself. She really loves literature. Her classroom is full of books, and this past year she partnered with our school librarian, Liz Barber, and between the two of them, they were running some online challenges for kids. And tracking how much they were reading and how much time they were spending outside of school reading, and we were celebrating that and throwing pizza parties. So that's some energy that you're going to see coming back to the middle school this next year. It's showing some good dividends for us. One thing I like to do is I do also like to look at our data as a cohort. So when we're looking at the data as it is here, you're seeing how we've done 8th grade over the years, which matters for us when we're going to start talking about how our curriculum is performing. When you take the average of how we're doing all of the time in 8th grade, right, you're going to start asking yourself, like, that's what our curriculum is doing. The units that we're teaching, the books that we're reading, are we going deep enough into informational text? So to Michelle's point, this is very surface data. The educators inside the walls of this school are going to be looking at every single data point that lives underneath this big number here. So I like to track it backwards. So if you're looking at this one in particular, if we were to look at 8th grade, in 23-24, the 8th graders, 59% of them passed the New York State ELA. Now, if we want to look at how that same cohort did when they were in 7th grade, you're actually going to go up and over one, right? So now you're going to see that that same cohort was at 62. Taking into account opt-out, taking into account kids moving in or moving out, right? That's actually a very subtle change for us in terms of percent passing. Let's go up one more because we can look at that same cohort when they were in 6th grade. There they are at 65. So I do like to look at them and say, okay, now let's track that. Now we're going to start as teachers looking at individual students. So who are the kids that at one point were getting 3s that maybe now got a 2, and in what area did they get a 2, right? So the data, to Michelle's point, is very surface here and very deep when you get inside the walls of a classroom and we're beginning to look at what this data means for each individual child. So congratulations to our teachers for their hard work, and also like having tracked the cohorts the way that I do in my initial preview. I see only a few locations where I was like, whoa, what just happened to that group in mathematics, right? So you will watch. You won't necessarily see the work that comes next, you guys, but please know that our teachers are going to be digging deeply into this data to build not just curriculum conversation, but also individual kids and what their needs are to get them either too proficient because they haven't been there or catch them back up if they were at one point.
Okay, so math, here we are. Math, same idea. Again, math is a little funky because students are learning to use the mathematic tools that are for computer-based testing. And I'm interested to work with the 5th grade team to see what those tools were and did they give any hiccups to them. So I did a preliminary, very quick, like data dive, okay, on my own. Actually, our teams haven't even seen this yet. I just put it in a folder for them. And what I'm curious about is a few of the spots that we fell short on is fractions, and I just wonder how the equation editors are and how the students were able to express their thinking on their test. So that's something I'll be looking at closely with the 5th grade team. What I love about some of our data reports that we're able to pull is we can see the standards that we performed above the region and the standards that we had a gap. And so like when I look at something like this, the blue shows me thumbs up, and then the gray shows me we have some work to do, and then prioritizing where we need to fill in for next year. We're also though gonna look at years prior because it could be a poorly written question. They could have added more questions to that standard. So where we may have earned 78% passing in a standard, in a particular standard, they may have last year only asked one question, and this year they may have asked a multiple choice and a constructed response, and there is where some work needs to happen. Oh, wow, we have to practice constructed response with that standard. So we'll be doing some dives there, and that's where we're going to be spending our time the next few weeks.
May I ask a question? On those math tests, are they strictly numbers, or are they going to have to explain how they got their answer?
Yes, to explain.
Because when you have to explain, then you also have to have the language.
Yes. It's a reading test.
Yeah.
Very much a reading test. And you will see that when we go to the sciences as well. That was a very heavy literacy exam, period. So we will be looking at that and seeing what we can do to prepare our students for a test that surprised us all. It surprised us all across the region. So hopefully they make some adjustments and take our feedback. The state has asked for feedback. Our teachers did put in feedback at the state level so that some adjustments can be made. That was disappointing, actually, to see and to watch our kids take that test, so to be very frank with you.
We finished with science.
Science.
So I know this is new data. Is there, so with the incoming 6th grade class, so you had suggested following the cohort. I followed them from 3rd to 4th down to 5th, and there was a 22% decline even on ELA, even though we still scored high in the region. And then this, are there remediation practices, or will you be able to figure something out, like where this number came from to support these kids in 6th grade? Because out of the 50 kids, I think I came up with the numbers like 13 kids passed.
So I will just reiterate that the percent passing that you're seeing is the percent passing of the children that took it, right? So we will be looking at, picture our current 6th grade, say 50 kids in it, right? We are actually gonna look at every single child and exactly how they scored. Just today, Michelle sent me all of the data, their individualized data from the last 2 years coming into grade 6.
Perfect.
So right now at the middle and high school, there is a folder that's been created that has not just 1 year's worth of data, but 3 years worth of data. So like Michelle and I are both holding 3-year data over here because we made notes for ourselves for this evening, but our teachers will begin to look at this because sometimes it is that we have a cohort and we're watching kids that are coming below. Sometimes it is that the curriculum is underperforming. Like I will look at this and tell you that last year when the ELA teachers wrote their improvement plans around their curricular areas, they identified the need for informational text to be an area that we needed to focus on. Well, obviously I pull that up and I'm looking at it, you know, this last week as I'm going through my data, we still are not seeing major increases in informational text. We've got to provide a lot of staff development. We've got to make sure that our kids are reading enough informational text. So to your point, everything from what it is we're putting in front of them that they're chewing on to help them grow that particular skill, all the way down to each individual child. Next up for us, I don't know if it's next. Are we going to go right in? Okay.
Yeah, we
Because
can if you want us to.
we are going to talk about our RTI plan, which is going to take us back to how do we do that? How do we provide interventions for kids?
Is it within the board's purview to say, you know, I'm curious to see what the plan would be going forward, kind of not so much the details and nitty gritty of what you found with the students, but just the overall feel of, you know, where are the spots that we found? What did we ultimately find with this, and what are the plans to improve?
So we could do that in a couple of ways. I mean, our teachers definitely, first of all, thank you, because at this point at the middle and high school, the board did approve for us to have curriculum leaders back in all 4 cores, something that we haven't had for quite some time. So the absence of that and a director of curriculum is causing a lot of like, where are our eyes on the prize right now? No excuses for we're moving as much as we can, as fast as we can in every area in the system that we can. But from a system thinking standpoint, you do have to have someone watching the big picture and kind of taking that under their reign. So I appreciate that is back in the middle and high school. When we build our plans, they really will be targeting particular areas that you're not maybe seeing just in 6th grade, but that you're starting to see curricularly across the entire department. They will in turn write SMART goals around what they're going to target in order to improve student achievement. So those plans are going to be authored. It's just a matter of how would you like to see those and at what level of detail. Each individual teacher will also be doing the same thing. Every teacher will be looking at their own individual data across 3 years. So your 6th grade English teacher is going to be looking at 6th grade for 3 years, comparing it to last year's improvement plan that they authored around their curriculum. Then they're going to be looking at every individual child. Who are the kids that need us and what do we need to do for them?
And at my level, it'll be a grade level discussion. So they're going to be doing data dives together as, 4 teachers, 3 classroom teachers and the special ed teacher.
So I see you've noticed the cohort. So let's take a look at the 8th grade in this one, because in this one, the one thing I will say to you is when you start to look at the New York State math assessments, this is not an excuse, it's just a reality, right? When you're looking at, back to my comment about you're looking at the percent of students who passed that took the exam, we do not assess our accelerated kids, nor do any other schools really in the region, because your accelerated kids in 8th grade are taking the Algebra Regents exam, okay? So they're completely pulled out of this cohort data. So when you watch that, if I were to put them back in, and I were to say the 8th graders that took the 8th grade assessment, 31% of them passed. The 8th graders that took the algebra exam, 100% of them passed. And put my numbers together, you would probably see a cohort number that might actually be higher than the 72%. I didn't do the math for you. We're not that, we've had this data for 2 weeks, we haven't dove that deeply yet, but immediately when I look at that 31, like my heart palpitates, but I know that all my accelerated kids are pulled out of there.
That's,
Yeah, so
that's
I
good to know.
I saw your eyes. And I understand, because I do think you want to watch it as a cohort. So taking a look at that same cohort, right, you see them in 23, 24, our accelerated kids pulled out. Now let's go back and look how they did in 7th grade with Mr. Mervine at 72%.
Yeah.
Now let's take them back into 6th grade, right, at 38%. So you're watching a cohort that over the course of their middle school career has jumped pretty significantly in their math skill. So there's still a lot in this data set to celebrate, even though none of us like to see numbers that are that low.
That's interesting.
Any other questions?
And then this-
Get into science real quick.
I said my science piece.
Mine is still curricular. I still just live by that. We've got to continue. First of all, I'll say, let me go back and tell you, all my accelerated 8th graders are also taken out of this data set, but we're ranking 16th in the BOCES region, and everybody pulls their accelerated kids out, right? So I say that data, I'm going to give this analogy, that when you're looking at data, you can either make yourself feel really good or you can make yourself feel really bad, right? So when we're looking at this data set, we don't want to make any excuses. We don't want to feel really good and we don't want to feel really bad. We just want to understand the context of the data set that we're looking at. For me, the orchestration of a 6 through 8 curriculum is still something that I'm working very diligently with the teachers on, because science, like math, has to have progressions. You don't really want to be very content specific, that we learn this in 1 grade and we don't see it again until we reach the high school curriculum. So it's got to have some spiral to it, which is what we're working diligently right now on, trying to get ourselves to that point. It's going to take time. You're probably looking at, in a reform like we're doing, you're probably looking at a good 3 to 5 years before you start to really see a curriculum come to life in that area. But for the science department, we've invested a great deal of money in their staff development, and when I tell you that the science budget has probably quadrupled over the last 2 years, because we're buying a lot more equipment and a lot more, similar to a high school program that had a lot of consumables. You're now seeing a middle school that has a lot of consumables. To do a particular lab last year in the 7th grade, I had to go uptown and buy chicken wings. The kids had, right, they were learning to dissect. So it's just the idea that is going to be a little bit more expensive, but you're going to give kids a real hands-on experience in science, and we're working in that way. And if you were looking at us, 8th grade, you know, obviously the curriculum is running for us 6-12, you're going to see that our science numbers, if we went back and looked at the Regents exams, our science numbers by department are still coming in lower than the rest of the departments, which is why you're watching my focus remain there in curriculum development.
And to your point, Becky, at the elementary, we've never had students that had to sit for labs. That was new for us this year. So we don't take this as, it is a 5th grade exam right now, but the labs are being spread out starting at grade 3, 4, and 5, so that it becomes kind of everybody's responsibility to support our students for this exam. And then hopefully with the additional, the hope is that with STEAM program for all of our kids, that type of thinking, that critical thinking, that investigation work is going to start to be part of what they do every day. So to look at critical documents critically, just like we would in other areas, to start making hypotheses and assumptions and rely on your thinking. That's the work at the elementary level that's happening right now.
Do we still have a science fair?
We do not. We have what we call STEAM Day, where we stop everything for that day and we bring in all of the STEAM experiences. So similar to our science fair, it's just during the school day, all day.
Okay, but you don't have one where the kids pick a, when's the last time we've done that?
1977.
It was before COVID.
It was the last year, because they did a virtual one
Okay.
for COVID.
That was another thing, right? That's lifted by a lot of people. And so we are choosing to put our energy in different categories all the time. And so we just need the backing of people that will lift that kind of work, families that will, of course, attend and support their kiddos doing some science experiments, because all of those, many of those were happening at home. I think our primary, we're doing activities in during the school day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to the middle high school principal hiring plan and school community feedback. Mr. Malasani.
Yes, I'll go through this pretty quickly. This morning I shared with the board all the Excel the Excel sheet data, which gets into every single piece in terms of narrative comments that our community or teacher, whoever the case may be, provided. So I'll briefly get into the big points here. So with respect to our overall participation, pretty well participated. We had 83 parents and guardians, 38 students, 21 staff, and 8 community members that break up those percentages throughout. So if you think about when we asked for what qualities and traits you're looking for in your next superintendent, I think we got 18. So their participation here for the middle high school principal was certainly substantially higher, so we're happy to see that. So I've taken the 2 big pieces, you'll see here in just the next slide, 2 biggest traits that people were looking for, characteristics they want to see in your next principal. But I want to share with you how the survey itself was designed. So when you look at it, it appears that it's one survey. It's really not. It was actually, I think, 4 that we broke it up to. But it's based on your stakeholder group. We did ask everybody that responded to the same themes, but there was slightly different wording if we were asking a student compared to a staff member or to a guardian or a community member. Same themes, but different wording, so it made sense. Faculty and staff also had a few additional prompts because you're looking at the administration piece of that, the educational standards leadership piece of that. So again, I'm going to hit on just the big ones. You have, like I said, in your backup notes or the memo I sent out this morning, that will actually be shared with the interview committee. So when they design their questions, they're intentional. So we're trying to actually capture the traits and hire the best person for the position. But here for the teacher results, supportive and approachable creates a positive and supportive environment where faculty and staff feel comfortable sharing concerns and ideas. So out of a scale of 5, that was a 4.8. Ethical standards, demonstrates integrity, models ethical behavior. Again, very high at 4.8. With respect to our parents and guardians, strong communication skills. Effective communicators, transparent, accessible, actively listens and seeks feedback from the various stakeholders that make up our school community. Integrity and ethical conduct. So we want people to demonstrate high ethical standards and models integrity, makes decisions based on the best interests of students, and earns the trust and respect of students, staff, and community. That's what the parents are, again, 4.8 out of the 5. Student results. Students want administrators that are going to be fair and consistent. All right, they don't want a roller coaster. They want somebody that's going to be fair and consistent when they're applying discipline, interacting with students, don't show favoritism, things of that nature. Enforces rules fairly. And is clear about expectations. The next is supporting understanding. Listen to students' concerns. They have an open door policy. You come in and share your concerns, and they make changes in the best interest of our students. Also creates that positive and encouraging school environment so that kids come here and then they're safe and secure so they're able to learn. And again, approachable. 4.8 out of the 5, so those are our highest of our students. And last, for the community, just as overwhelming as 4.8, was just integrity and ethical conduct. We talked about this a little bit earlier. It was a common trait too earlier that we talked about. Makes decisions based on what's the best interest of students, not themselves. We're not making a decision because it's easier for the administrator, but rather in the best interest of students so that we can have the correct care for them so they can further develop their skill set. So that's it, big picture stuff. You have, again, like I said, I think it's almost 40 pages long. You'll have it all broken out by various subgroups, stakeholder groups, from their comments, from ratings, all the way throughout. We will be sharing this slide deck with our interview committee as well as the Excel sheet, as I mentioned here at the beginning. I'm not surprised by any of the data. I would imagine it wasn't too long ago in 2018 when we hired Becky, probably very similar data, because these are traits that you want in your administrator. So, questions, thoughts? Nothing?
Appreciate the community giving the feedback they did. It was nice to read the responses. I thought it was insightful, and they took the time to do it. So
yeah, 8 of them did it, right? So 8 of them that don't have children in their schools took it upon themselves. So that's great.
That's good.
Yeah. I agree, Michael. I think that was it. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Moving on to old business, number 1, Board of Education evaluation discussion. I would like to hopefully wrap this up today based on the information we have gathered. As we're all well aware, per board policy, we have to complete a board self-evaluation yearly. We did that several months back. At our last meeting, we discussed cumulative data, which is fairly simple to look at in terms of where we fall. The narrative data posed a little bit more of a challenge of how do we break that down. So we did this Google Docs form. Board members had a chance to weigh in on what narrative data was most important to them. And I'd like to summarize that for you guys today, and with your board, with your wishes, or hopefully your approval, move forward with sort of closing this board's self-evaluation out. What I noticed, there's 3 sections, obviously. Most important goals, we had 4 opportunities to list most important goals. Overwhelmingly, support of the next superintendent of schools was very high up there. I think that that's a good representation of where we're all at. We have a challenge next year of welcoming aboard Dr. Chanel, and we want to make sure we do that in a productive manner that allows her to succeed and for our district to succeed. So that was overwhelmingly like the response. There was some outliers. Nothing really significant showed up where, you know, a couple people said this, a couple people said that, but nothing as much as the supporting the next superintendent of schools. Around weaknesses, we scored high around sort of the board's internal growth, right? The acknowledging that the board internally needs to have some growth and support. We have started working on that. We are going to start the second week, or the second meeting in October, having some board professional development. So I feel like we're on track with that, but that was what came up as weaknesses, and strengths were, you know, that we hired the next superintendent and have a tight budget. So with that information that we've gleaned from that Google Docs, I would like to put together a finalization on that board self-evaluation and highlight what the will of the board is based on the information. Questions, concerns?
Can I just?
I'm sorry, yes.
I just want to elaborate that one of the things was your professional practice as a board in terms of coming to meetings prepared, understanding material. It's all ballooned in one area of professional development. So again, when we go through the board discussion with Ms. Del Bavard, there will probably be an area that probably will surface again, and that'll be one of your focuses, or essentially multiple months focus in terms of our professional practice as a board. And then along those lines too, as I shared at the last meeting, it doesn't mean the other comments that were made in your evaluation, your self-evaluation, they still exist in your board document. Just that the top 4 of each of those areas, or however the question is posed, will be first. So everything that you've said will still be a part of your evaluation, but then you prioritize, you know, collectively as a group, what is the most important or least important. So that'll be a part of it in its entirety.
Okay, can you, question number 2 with the pie chart, can you explain to me, okay, question number 1, it was 100% for select the next superintendent. And how did the next question become 80% with the same answer? Am I misunderstanding it?
So the second one is like, it's the second most important.
But if it was 100% was the first most important, how does the 80% be the second? Like, did somebody choose it twice? Because, I mean, with 5 responses, that's what, 3 of 5 choosing that twice for their second most, right? That doesn't.
Well, I think when you open that up, it gets into more, not just selecting a superintendent. The second one, when you open up that bar, talks about support of the superintendent, having grace with the superintendent.
Okay.
It's expanded.
Yeah, it didn't, because it doesn't show.
It doesn't show in this
You can't
report.
click on it to look at it to get
I
the.
thought that was hard.
It's confusing,
That's
like,
a good
well,
question.
like, what, why is this 80% again? If it's 100, you know, if it's 100% once, how is it 80? Is that how math works? You know,
That's a good question. I will look into that a little more.
if you don't mind, thank you.
Just to make sure, I want to make sure we're representing the board's will in our final representation of our self-evaluation. Absolutely.
And this is, again, the green, say number 3, which green is which?
I know I had a hard time with that.
Because it's not clear.
Yes.
Like, is it ranked by, like, so is the first green the 40%, the second green the 20%?
I believe when we looked at this, Bob and I, that on question 3, the green is budget development.
Which green? There's 2 greens.
The 40%.
Okay, so it
We'll identify that.
yeah, if you don't, because it's not clear by looking at the pie chart.
The document that you have, Mr. Malasani, you can like hover over. That's not what we got. Can we see that?
Yep. Yeah, actually, I shared that with you in your, when I shared it with you, but in terms of this report, I just clipped it out. I will reshare that with you to
Thank
see
you.
exactly.
That makes it a lot
When
clearer.
you hover over it, you
It
can
can-
see, yes.
And with the second question, Liz,
Yes.
the blue is a different blue than the first question.
Oh, that's a different.
Oh, for crying out
It's a different
loud.
blue. It's the board professional practice blue, because if you, like, on the pie chart, it looks kind of almost like
Okay.
there's lines in it.
Thank you. You're
Whereas
right.
the first one,
So the
it's a
first one is
solid.
overwhelmingly 100% supporting the next superintendent. The
Yes.
second one is 80% board professional practice.
Can the
which we are
graphs be
on.
redone with like patterns or like seriously, like why is there 2 blues?
Well, the green
2
ones
greens?
were, I couldn't tell the
they're-
green ones apart.
they're
The blues I got, but
indistinguishable.
the greens I.
I'll tell you what, I'll reshare the
Thank you.
report with you. If you still need an explanation or have it broken down further, I will do that.
Perfect,
And then
thanks.
we'll try to get a final document together.
Yep.
Bob, that doesn't require a resolution, right? We just do it.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or concerns regarding that? Thank you for your feedback.
Thank you.
for the work.
All right, next up is new business, and we have presentation of response to intervention, academic intervention services. Ladies, you're back up.
Yeah, so this actually piggybacks a little bit what Michael was talking about in terms of an instructional plan to correct any errors and deficiencies or necessary growth, whatever the case may be. Typically, we actually approve these in June, July, but you're going to hear from Michelle and from Becky that we made changes to our RTI plan. That's why you see it here tonight.
You can sit here and keep filling the blanks.
It's just weird to stand in.
It's
front
a-
of her
I know.
and talk. It's like, I know the camera's there, and I'm just like blocking her.
It's all right. I'm used to presenting this plan anyway. I have since I got here, so, as director. So this is our RTI plan. You approve it annually. I will tell you, last year we had no changes. This year we have 1 change. So we'll go through it rather quickly, and you can answer any question. I can answer any questions that you may have. Next slide, please, Mr. Nardone. Okay, so we must have a response to intervention plan or an RTI plan for K-4, but we also have to have academic intervention for our students that are also taking the New York State exams, so 3 through 8, and then of course Regents exams in the high school. So this kind of puts together our plan for all of that, okay, extra support. It's also a general education plan. This means that all students are privy to this plan, whether you're an ENL learner or whether you are a student with a disability, everybody has access to response to intervention RTI. Okay. For our 2 new board members, this slide looks familiar. We took it right out of your
Right.
presentation.
Right, we saw this.
Yes, so we look at RTI as a multi-tiered system that not only tackles academic systems, but behavioral systems as well, and they work congruently together using very similar language. However, just like educators love to do, we are throwing a lot of acronyms at you, so when you see NTSS or a multi-tiered system of support, you may also hear things like RTI, AIS, which is Academic Intervention Services. Really, they all mean the same thing. In my world, you will hear win time, which is what I need time, which is where we provide those services. And in Dr. Chanel's world, you will hear home base. That is the same thing as win time of where she is tackling that task. So what happens in both of those systems? We give tailored instruction. This is where we're going to take some of our data analysis and put it right to work, along with other data pieces. It's not just the New York State data that we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at multiple pieces of data, at least 3. Triangle again, that special thing. And then we do a timely response to students' needs. This is the pulse on the school. It's not the data set that we just looked at. It's not the best that's a pretty good way to think of it. Those data sets is like an autopsy, okay? That's the final thing. Here is where we keep a constant pulse and where you're constantly doing a checkup all the time. So this is very timely data. Okay, next. All right, so again, at the elementary school, you've seen this before. I have put it on Parent Square. I've given it out. This is just explaining what I need. We have a scheduled part of the day, every single day, specifically for WIN time. We provide not only the services that students need, maybe it's a counseling service, or maybe it's a behavioral intervention service, that's the other part of the triangle, and then also reading and math interventions is where we focus our time. Who can provide that? We have AIS providers, again, academic interventionists at my level, and then also the classroom teachers, as well as the special ed teachers and any other support service provider that may be giving the student exactly what they need at that time. So my times range between 30 minutes and 40 minutes every single day, depending on the grade level. And then we also have whole group team meetings to discuss that data and adjust our groups, because this is not a life sentence. You're supposed to be in and out, and it's supposed to be very prescriptive. Move, progress monitor, move students forward, and then we should expect to see the student exit and go back into the classroom getting what they need from their classroom teacher as well. That is the goal. So we do that 3 times a year, plus we have spot checks and team meetings throughout the year. And then at the middle high school.
So at the middle high school, we do call it home base. Every child has a home base in their schedule, and actually that just means where you go if you're not being pulled by a teacher. Our Champions 41 system is really what we're running right now to not only request students for intervention, but also to track those interventions. This is another system that I would say just is getting better and better every year. Shout out to our school library systems, Chris Harris and his team, because they actually built this database for us. Our teachers are giving them feedback on what's working, and each year they are redesigning for us. But Champions 41 is the system that we run to make sure that we are actually functioning more as a response to intervention model at the middle high school. So we're going to mince words for 1 second. Academic intervention services, as Mrs. Meyer mentioned, means that we have this data from a New York State assessment. Your child did not pass it. Now we put them in AIS, where they live until they pass a New York State assessment. That's an old model. A lot of middle and high schools still run that. We actually are one of very few middle and high schools that's running a response to intervention model. So in our world, if you think about, doesn't matter the course, you could be in a math class as a 7th grader, math could be your strength. We could actually be in a unit on statistics and probability, and all of a sudden math is not your strength. In an RTI model, we are watching every child and their success, both on current measures of performance and on past measures of performance. So our teachers do have we'll call it the list of children that maybe were not successful on their New York State assessment. We do put them on a watch list, and we are paying very close attention to how they're doing. They get pulled in Champions 41, the same as their peer that only struggled with the ratios quiz that we took on Thursday. So teachers right now have the ability inside the middle high school system to be as strategic as they can possibly be. They are pulling kids based on the lesson that they are teaching today, and then the children need that particular lesson. So at any given time, you're going to see anywhere from teachers working one-on-one with a child to teachers having 15 to 16 kids in their room during home base. Home base for intervention purposes runs at 45 minutes, so our kids do have the opportunity in the 6th through 8 to experience that daily. We are working on now our next big hope in Champions 41. Teachers can currently select students for intervention. Our next goal is going to be to give kids access to actually request intervention from a teacher. So teachers are doing that right now, they're just not doing it technologically. So there's a lot of communication going back and forth between kids, but I don't have a data set to show you. So I like any system that we're building, I like it to have a data set on the back end where we're able to start to look at how that data system is functioning. Champions 41 also emails parents at night. So if your child is being pulled for an intervention, you're getting an email. I always tell parents that's a good prompt to you that your child is either just in our regular space, we've given an assessment and the assessment came back lower than 70. That's a trigger for us. I want every teacher to be paying attention to that data point. That means kids are not getting close to mastery on the content that you've just quizzed on or tested on. Get them pulled and clean it up. Those end-of-year exams will always be low if you don't get in the way of failure. And so Champions 41 is meant to do that, to track that progress over time. So we do track the data. We have the ability, when we meet as a PPS team, we have the ability to look at kids that are struggling, run reports to see the frequency at which they've been pulled for math intervention. So a lot of really cool systems running in the back end for us of making sure that we're doing a good job tracking that. The next slide. We have one big change, one big change that we can tag team. Go ahead, Michelle.
Okay, so we have, one of the pieces that we have in common too is how we assess our students, and one of the benchmarks or the screening tools that we had used was called iReady. Our students would go on, it's a computer assessment that, I know, I saw some flinches.
I should have told you, she's gonna say a word, look
at it. Yeah, we lived with it for a long time, and the kids also said we needed a change. It had been here prior to me, it was being implemented probably a year or two prior to me getting here. I'm gonna say it's 10 years. 9 to 10 years, is that accurate, Bob?
I would say so.
It was time for a shift, and technology is enhanced. We were looking for a more teacher-friendly, data-friendly tool that could help us move RTI. To be honest, we felt like iReady was just another thing, and it wasn't supporting our RTI system as well as we knew other programs could. So we spent about 2 years talking about it, looking for other programs, and we landed with IXL. So it's an adaptive learning computer program. It is interactive in a sense that it's going to make it a little bit more gamified for students to go in and to
They're very into computer words right now.
Yes. You're going to earn things, so it's definitely hits the student aspect and the engagement for them to be taking this. It tracks our progress, and it tracks it in multiple ways that, again, from a teacher standpoint, iReady didn't do as easily. Go ahead.
So let me explain it this way. With iReady, you basically think about iReady as a diagnostic. The kids would sit and they would take their diagnostic, and they would take it for as long as it took, and the better
3
you
times
are,
a year.
the better you are at math, the longer you're in the system, proving how smart you are as you're like aging out. So iReady is like very time consuming. Sit down, you're going to get it, it's an assessment. IXL is actually, it has daily implications for a teacher. So your teachers not only are going to get this same diagnostic information, but they're going to be able to say to kids, your homework for tonight is a skill, it's a math skill or a literacy skill that we're working on. It's been assigned to you in iReady. Or in IXL. When the kids go into IXL, they actually do their homework in IXL, and that data gets added to this overall monitoring system of how kids are doing mathematically or in literacy. So every single time they touch it, it's giving you a better vision of where they're at and what their needs are. And I was looking at data reports just this morning with Mrs. Geary, and just based on the quiz that she just gave, it actually, in the system actually gave her the kids that were a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1. She goes, look, there's my home-based intervention groups, exactly who I'm pulling together. Like those kids are coming together and these kids are coming together. So this system is gonna pulse with our kids, and it is supposed to be less time consuming, which we're currently watching right now. Accelerated 8 has already gotten started, and they were in the system for 45 minutes and they still haven't hit their stars. And so Mrs. Geary is just telling them that that's because you're just smart and keep going. So we'll see.
They're asking more questions. They want to see what their cap is before the instruction is going to go.
Jeremy, can you go to the next slide for us?
Can I ask 2 questions?
Of course.
Is the IXL, what grades? Like, will my senior be sitting down to do it?
Your
or is
senior will not be sitting down to do it, although there are tools inside IXL that we currently did not have that I definitely am going to open the portal into the high school. It has SAT prep, it has ACT prep, it does actually have Regents prep in it. It doesn't have the same pulsing like curriculum as what you're watching happen through 8th grade, but at the high school level you can even select. They have a lot of textbooks in there. You can even select your textbook as a student and have it give you sample problems. So at the high school, it's probably going to be rolled out more as here's a tool you could use, and less that teachers are assigning it.
So they can get their Chromebooks out when they get home or log in from home and
do some more prep.
Click their way through.
Yeah, and we haven't had anything other than kids coming in for SAT prep. We usually do a prep class that's maybe like 2 nights for maybe 3 hours each night or something like that. This will actually let them load their pre-SAT scores. They can actually tell IXL what they got, and IXL will build for them a practice to like increase their score in particular areas, and they can set goals. So it does have some benefits for us at the high school. I would love to tell you that I'm gonna be able to pull all of that off this year. That is like the goal, right? That is the goal. But we definitely need to get the kids in a room and show them what this is. Their teachers are not gonna wanna teach that to them because it's just not where they're at, but like that's on my list of things. I would love to see that happen.
Does I'm sorry, Liz. The data you have from iReady, is that integrated at all, or is that just
That's the
close the
slide.
door?
That's the slide. This is
Oh.
actually, yeah, this is actually why
That's a
we
win.
also were excited about IXL. So this slide is meant just to show you that regardless whether we were looking at iReady or whether we're using the diagnostics in IXL, we're still looking at the same strands and domains, which makes sense, right? How do you teach mathematics if measurement isn't in there, right? So you'll see that these big key concepts are still very much there. We have downloaded, I should say Michelle has downloaded our iReady data and archived it for us. So we do right now, like for example, the 6th grade team has last year's exiting grade 5 data coming out of iReady. So we start the year, which we've always done, we start the year with a data set of where were you last year. And now our new data is moving into a new system for the kids. But for us, when we're measuring what we're measuring the same things. We're just doing it with a different tool.
Thank you.
I will say the thing that I'm most excited about is that we'll be able, when we have these data conversations in the next couple weeks, pinpoint the exact standard that we needed support in curricularly, or maybe more questions needed to be asked, we need more examples, and we can assign it to that class, to that student. When I say right down to the standard with multiple
Like
examples.
here, do these 5 questions to get your practice?
Yes, and so we weren't able to do that with iReady as seamlessly, that part didn't exist for us. So now a teacher can go in and say, I want numbers and operations standard, 3.5. Boom, click, and assign it to specific students. So that's gonna drive a lot of our WIN conversations and our groups.
I'll geek out for just 1 second.
I can see.
We're just 1 second. We are very excited about this because of its potential. So I told you that when our data came out this year, I quickly went back to look at what did the 7th grade teacher set as their literacy target for the year, and how did we do on this next round? In IXL, the teacher can actually say, my goal for the year and my benchmark with this same standard that we saw from the state assessment, 50% of the kids were hitting this target, and I want to get us to 90%. And it will track their goal at the top for them to be able to see that goal versus we're going to be able to see it too, that we're making progress toward that goal versus what we just did. We had these plans, the teachers were implementing, they were trying to make change. We give another round of assessment, and what did we do? Was it in April? And then we got the results in August.
And then school started, we tried to open up
and it's
buildings.
like, oh man, we didn't make a lot of movement in that standard. This should allow us to really progress monitor that in like real time, which is so cool. This system is definitely more artificial intelligent, like generated, and all the things it's gonna let us track. So I do think it's gonna help us keep our eye on the prize. Yeah, stuff we've not been able to do, that even a person couldn't do. So we're excited.
Liz, and you said, how much did we save? Is that what I heard you say?
No.
Oh,
I see
it was a cost savings.
It's a cost savings from iReady. I was gonna ask if, what the implication for teachers is, right? Like, so this all sounds great, but this means teachers have to acclimate to a new system.
Tell her what we did last year.
I will. So we have a superintendent that if you really, really debate and win, you So last year when we gave back some snow days to the kids that the teachers were here, we actually did all of our IXL training. Our teachers were fully trained in IXL and what it was going to mean to run the platform before they went home for the summer, so that any curriculum work that they did over the summer, they got to do knowing that IXL was the way in which they were going to deliver that.
So going into this school year, they can use this feedback data.
Yeah, they're already in.
They're
already in.
And then our October conference day will have data sets in there, so we're going to train what that looks like when we want to pull, and then look at different groupings and take it to the next level. Right now, they got trained on how does the system work, do I roster kids, how do I assign things. Now it's going to be, how do I use this information?
Thank
Yeah,
you
so
very much.
IXL will be with us on our October Superintendent Conference Day, because we should be ready to begin analyzing, learning how to pin some of our big goals to the top. And so we'll have support here for teachers that were in that spot in terms of their staff development, so it's exciting.
Fantastic. Any other questions from the board?
Can I just ask an ignorant question? So you're talking home base and the WIN things, the kids are pretty much doing stuff on the computers? Or do you ever have?
Not always.
Yeah, not always.
You know,
No.
like read and,
So the win time that's how they get into a group. So I actually discourage students to be on the computer or teachers to put them on the computer during win time. That is intended to be direct, explicit, small group instruction.
okay.
So with a teacher, you know, or an introduction to something, go practice, come back and revisit. And then this is also where we deploy all of our intervention services, where they're with a reading or a math specialist.
Right, well, I've talked to both of you about, again, enrichment kind of things for the kids who are
So this
already
gives us
doing
the
stuff.
data for all parts of the whole line.
The enrichment component of home base for me is still very underdeveloped. It's something that I'm still working very hard to get. I would love to see partnerships with outside organizations that are coming in to allow our kids to have different experiences. Like, we've done a little bit of that, but nowhere near the amount that I would love to see happening during that time. Kids who don't need intervention, you're not gonna love this, but kids that don't need intervention and are not being pulled, they have 45 minutes of free time.
Well,
So
that's-
they very well are playing a game, but we also run 85-minute instructional blocks, so, you know, the
They
kids
use
will,
it as another study hall.
yeah, they're doing homework,
They are.
or they're listening to music, or they're playing a game, or they're talking to friends, like, they're really getting their first downtime of the day in most cases.
Some are being pulled for band or
Yeah,
to
they're doing
do
some
a
special
little
projects,
special
they're a class officer,
that what
and they've got
band is?
officer meetings.
No, band is
No.
Could
separate.
be lessons.
It
Could
might
be an
lessons
extra
and stuff like
lesson
that.
or an ensemble that they put together, and they all happen to not need a different academic intervention, but they're gonna go and you know, practice their band
Yeah.
instrument, so.
We did set aside money. I want to say it's been a solid 4 years. It was part of our strategic plan as well. We set aside money to try to increase those kind of enrichment opportunities. And the way that we've designed that is that we would pay teachers for their planning time outside of school to develop some of these cool, like, enrichment activities to deliver during home base. I had mentioned this the other day. I think one of the things we have to keep thinking about is we're asking teachers, we don't have academic intervention teachers at the middle high school. So if you're struggling in math, the math teacher is pulling you. To expect the teachers to not only be providing
Right.
that level of intervention, but to also be creative now, and on Thursday, do something fun. It's not that I don't want to see that, it's that I actually do think that we need to find some resources from the outside to come in to help us pull that off. And that's something that we just continue to look into. We're trying to build those relationships. Like, I've had them in the past with the zoo. The Seneca Park Zoo has come in and helped us do research projects. So those things exist. You just have to, you got to free yourself up enough to pulse with it. That's where we're at this year. That would be, if I was just going to stay put in the building, that would be like a focus for me right now, trying to get that the rest of the way on its feet. Mr. McCardle dabbled in it a little bit last year. We saw things like yoga, baking classes in the middle of the day, like some interesting things, but not necessarily some really engaging instructional push your brain thinking, which is what I'd like to see happen there. It does need some time and attention. But our intervention model is running.
Oh,
Yeah.
no,
Yes,
that's
but-
good too, but I,
Yes,
again.
but
I
no,
just
but
think it would
the
be
enrichment component
something
is,
for the
it's
kids.
huge, it's huge.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So next we will approval of response to intervention plan. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the response to intervention plan 2022 through 2025. Can I have a motion, please?
Yep.
Can I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. Number 3, approval of senior class out-of-state trip. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the request for the class of 2025 to participate in an overnight out-of-state field trip to Universal Studios Orlando, Florida from March 30th, 2025 through April 2nd, 2025. per the regulations set forth by Board Policy Number 8460, field trips. Cost for the chaperones will be passed on to the price of the student fee. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just again, I'm sure we need to back up notes. It was the board's priority to make sure we had overnight security, and this trip has that. So it's an increased cost for the total trip, but it's necessary.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. Number 4, approval of high school student council trip. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the request for high school student council to participate in the overnight trip to the New York State CLSA Student Leadership Conference in Lake Placid, New York, from November 24th through the November 26th, 2024, per the regulations set forth by Board Policy Number 8460, field trips. Cost for the chaperones will be passed on to the price of the student fee. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is carried. Number 5, Board of Education discussion regarding Board of Education member resignation.
So a little bit later in your agenda, under new business, should be taken action, should you accept the resignation of Mr. Christopher Richter as board member. As I shared with the board through your backup notes, the board has 3 options. So the board can do nothing, which means you don't necessarily have to fill the seat. 2, you can have a special election. Or number 3 is that you can appoint a board member. In the past, the district has a history of appointing previously approved or voted on board members. In other words, they were already a seated board member, so the community already had faith in his or her performance, and they were voted in. So those are your 3 options, and just throw it out there for discussion. What is the will of the board, and how would you like to move forward?
It'll be May in 6 months. At the moment, we have no reason to believe that the 6 of us wouldn't function at a very high level. That being said, running off to either have a special election, in my opinion, would be meaningless. Secondly, running off to get Arnie or Billy Van Allen or somebody to come back to sit here for 5 months when this board actually has a lot of our own business to take care of, that I think would just be dragging us down a little bit with somebody else sitting here. Finally, thank you. If all of a sudden there's 13 3-3 votes, then we have a problem. That being said, at the moment, there's clearly no problem, and the 6 of us seem like a
Reasonable
pretty good group. That's my opinion. Obviously, I would support the will of the board, as all 6 of us will, but I think we're fine.
Other thoughts?
Thank you.
Other thoughts? Concerns?
That sounds right.
Is this ultimately the board's decision?
It is the board's decision.
Okay.
Yep.
And we can change if we, like, in a month, we say, ooh, you know, it's a little close, the margins are close on votes, can we say, you know, let's pull somebody in?
100%.
We don't have to decide right now until the end of the term. Like, we can change our decision between now and the end of the term.
Correct.
You can say, in a month, you can say John was wrong.
I wasn't gonna go there, but yeah.
So one of the things that gets tricky when you're down to 6, obviously it's even, right? John mentioned 3-3, but also, you know, life happens. So in terms of either scheduled vacations, illnesses, parental conflict in terms of maybe watching your child, it's imperative that your participation at the board meeting is very critical. Because regardless that there's 6 members, you still need 4 yeses. Regardless, it's not, you know, if 5 members show up 3-2 and it passes. By statute, it needs to always add at least 4 passing. So that would, you know, you need to be cognizant of that.
I would agree with you, John, on a couple of those, that I think a special election is, the cost of that is not worth the benefit. We need someone to fill the seat for 6 months if we fill it from now on. I, as president, would like to see 7 of us at the table. You never know when something like happens, exactly what Bob said. It's been historically, the board has appointed previous members, and I would like to see us do something like that. That's my opinion as a board member. I'm gonna do what the will of the board is. So,
Anybody else for input?
Yeah. I'm gonna be here, we're gonna be busy, but really I think the main concern that we have, and we know our schedules well, is what was communicated with us. If we're not able to make it, 4 votes passes resolutions, if we're not going to have 4 people here, you can't have a meeting. And so then we're pushed on to the next week. Having extra help would be nice. However, I feel like that would be dragging somebody into a business that we're trying to resolve as a group right now, short term, and maybe, long term if it is a need. If we do have the ability to bring someone on, I think that would probably be the best option. Right now, there's a lot going on with us that we're working on, so I'd like to work together. I think we can do it, hopefully.
It may be that, like in the spring, when you're working on budgets or something like that, or other stuff, I don't know, teachers' contracts, I don't know, that you might need the other person there. And then you could, we could all be sort of thinking in the back of your head who you might want to ask. Obviously, we came on unopposed, so it's not like people are lining up trying to get on the board. So having a special election certainly is out of the question, I think. But I suppose we could have in the back of our heads somebody who's been on the board before. And,
So what I'm hearing is to go with the 6 of us right now. And if something changes, we will reassess. Is
Yeah, I
that
think that-
accurate?
I think
Okay.
that-
Just for sake of timing, reassess is that the board's will, after you recognize it's working or not working and need a 7th, that you would look at potentially a previous board member.
Yeah, I think
Just so, because again, you have some gaps in your board meetings, could be 3 or 4 weeks, if it's a month, we get into budget season, every 2 weeks is a little different, but the business of our students and staff need to move forward.
Yeah.
Can't keep postponing a meeting because you don't have personnel, or, for example, you just have 4 board members, and maybe one board member feels it's not in his or her position to vote for a particular candidate and is voted down, whereas if you would have had 6 or 7 members, likely it would have passed easily. So I want to make sure it never, challenges the board's total will. Along those lines too, if you do not appoint anybody, which is the board's will, come the election in May, whoever wins the highest vote getter would have a 3-year term. The second highest vote getter will be a 3-year term. I think we have 2 people up at the end of the year. And then the unseated, in this case, Mr. Richter's position, if there's a 3rd position, the lowest vote getter after the first 2 would actually come on board in your meeting in May or June, depending on if you have 2 meetings or not. So that person actually starts this year. So
For one meeting, correct.
just for one meeting, you could, or one meeting, it could be the second meeting in May if you're conducting business, and the first meeting in June, but that person starts. If you take into account, that's exactly what Jamie had. He filled Mr. Anderson's position. He had an opportunity to attend those meetings in May or June. So that would be the case in this scenario as well. Okay.
It's imperative in this situation when we're keeping the 6 of us that we all look at our schedules and make sure that we can attend the rest of the meetings through the school year. So please be cognizant of that. If you can't make a meeting, I get life happens, so that's going to happen. I understand. But if you know today that you're not going to make a meeting in March, please let me know now.
On that subject, I will not be at the December meeting.
Thank you, John.
Welcome. I knew
Yeah.
at last December's
Right, so
meeting, I wouldn't be at
this
this one.
happens, so we know that, so.
So one other concern, now that, sorry we're out of discussion, but I think committees are gonna be hard for us to lift because there's one less person, and I don't know if we can somehow, I know that we're set to our committees, but if we could somehow say, I know I can't make this.
So I looked at that, thank you for bringing that up. I looked at the committees. The committees that Chris was on was the Board Audit Committee, the Facilities Committee, and the Financial Planning Committee. The Board Committee already has 2 other people on it. It's you, Mr. Valenek, and, thank you, Mr. Bickford. Facilities is me, and Financial Planning is you, Mr. Valenek. So in talking with Mr. Malasani, I don't think we need to add another one to the Board Audit Committee. I think that can stay as 2. Facilities probably needs another person. So I don't know it's as heavy a lift as you may think, 'cause that's what I thought. We need another volunteer for Facilities Committee and Financial Planning.
And along those lines too, is really you want board representation. You don't have to have multiple people.
Right, you can have one.
One could be enough. And again, knowing that the number of meetings that people are attending, I'll be happy to bring this back to the board for this further consideration if you want to trade or, there's 3 on the athletic committee, you only need to be 2. We can go back and visit this at your next meeting in October. And we can just restructure that. It's not an issue. Does that sound?
Thank you.
Looking for?
Yeah.
Okay. So we remember that.
All right, moving on to 6, approval of job descriptions for Director of Curriculum Instruction and Technology. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the job description for the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Technology. Can I have a motion, please?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is there a large pool of candidates you expect who has strength in both technology and strategic planning for that and the technology lift as well as curriculum?
Yeah, so far as of this morning, I think it was 8 or 9?
8.
Great.
8 applicants.
Yeah, good. It's strong in both?
Yes, well, it's more
Adequate.
common for smaller schools that encompass all 3 of them. Or in a larger school, it would probably just be the director of technology. You have somebody just had a curriculum, another person professional development. So, but in a smaller school, that's more common title than not.
Thank you.
Good question. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. Number 7, acceptance of board resignation. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, accepts with regret and best wishes the resignation of Chris Richter, board member, effective August 26, 2024. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That is carried. Number 8, adoption of textbooks. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the textbook committee, approve the adoption of the recommended textbook, Camp Bell Biology and Focus, published in 2024. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. We're going to move to executive session. Resolved that the Board of Education adjourn to executive session at 7:53 p.m. to discuss the employment, employee history of particular persons and matters leading to the appointment, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Any discussion?
I will be recusing myself from participating in this executive session.
Okay. A vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Should I vote on that if I'm not
just
participating? I'll
wondering.
abstain from the vote.
Do you want it for all of it or a portion?
The entire is
You
fine.
want the entire?
It's fair.
Okay. Okay.
Are you abstaining from the vote?
No, I will aye that vote.
Okay. That's carried.
I'll support that.
Moving to executive session. Welcome back from executive session. Resolved that the Board of Education return to regular session at 9:11 p.m. Can I have a motion, please?
Yep.
A second.
Yeah.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. We're going to move to
I
personnel.
abstain, obviously.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Moving to personnel, 1 through 9. Can I have a motion, please?
Yep.
A second.
Yep.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. Adjournment. Resolved that the Board of Education adjourn the meeting of September 10th, 2024 at 9:12 p.m. Can I have a motion, please?
Yes.
Second.
Yep.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None.
Sure.
Carried. Thank you. Have a good night.